Hi everyone, welcome back to Lockdown Lessons Part 15. With me today I've got Laurence Kelly from This R&D. So hello Laurence from behind your cup of tea or coffee. Welcome. How are things?
Yeah, thanks Phil, all good. Thanks for having me. It's a cup of tea.
No problem at all, thanks for clarifying.
No sugars, sweet enough.
Very good.
And that'll be the last pun from me today.
Good stuff. So yeah, just for those of the people that are watching this that don't know you, Laurence, perhaps you'd be kind enough just to explain what you do and what This R&D do.
Sure. So This R&D is a boutique research and development tax relief firm, and we help businesses reclaim some of the funds that they expend on making things, new things, and overcoming technological uncertainties.
Good stuff. Thank you very much. So I suppose that I'm going to ask you a few questions now, just really about the last few months and how lockdown's been for you guys. If we cast our minds back to March, I just wondered, at what point did you start to think this might be an issue, not for yourself or for This R&D, but this might be an issue commercially within the UK?
Oh, well, I couldn't, before the furlough scheme was announced, I couldn't see a pathway for how we could get rid of coronavirus or get rid of that threat without having some serious economic consequences of stopping and just standing still. And then I think, even though it didn't affect me so much being on furlough or anything else like that, I think a breathed a sigh of relief for the many people that it obviously would help and is still helping. Yeah,
it was a tricky time, and I was speaking to someone earlier that said, even the day before we went into lockdown, they were saying, no, absolutely not, no, we'll never go into lockdown, we won't follow Italy. And then the next day we did, but who was to know? No one knew what was going to happen. It was a really interesting time. So I just wondered, in which ways have you had to adapt, and This R&D had to adapt during the first lockdown, shall we say?
I think I can give a long answer, but the short answer would be Zoom. And including how we're talking today, an ability to still communicate with people but do it remotely, and when you've got that as the only alternative, it was the best answer, really. So we can still do the work, but unfortunately we can't have that that hands-on approach, which you'd normally get in going to the meetings and seeing the offices and seeing what people are making. But we can do it over Zoom, and we can, get the best alternative to doing that.
Yeah, I agree. I think that we're lucky to live in an era where we can do this type of thing, because I think sort of 30 years ago, if we went into lockdown without technology, without Zoom, God knows what would have happened. It would have been a really scary place to be. So what sort of I always ask this question, I always like to be quite positive. What sort of wins have you actually had since March the 23rd?
Speed, for me. We knew our clients were under a lot of pressure, and we'd always wanted to make R&D a very quick and easy process for people. You should be able to get an R&D claim and run a business at the same time and not have one interfering with the other. And so really it was a case of just discussing that. Tom, Ollie and I worked very hard to try and get our process slimlined down remotely, so that we could get people's R&D claims done, reports done, apportioned costs, while taking up less than 2.5 hours of the business owner's time, or creating avenues whereby they can actually delegate those responsibilities to their key staff members, their accountants, or some of their key developers in whatever area that may be. And that's proved really successful. So that's one of the things I take from it as a positive, in that we've streamlined our own process, and we're able to do this in a much more efficient manner for clients now.
Good. I think that, I think it's a bit of a misconception. I think when people first start to explore the idea of maybe claiming back money through R&D tax credits, they wrongly assume that this is going to take days of my time. I haven't got the time, I'm busy. When in some cases you look at it and you think, well, hang on a minute, these guys have invested 2 hours of their time and they've claimed back tens of thousands of pounds. And if we look at that and say, well, hang on a minute, if I invest an hour of my time and I get £5,000 back, or even £1,000 back, that's a fantastic use of time. So why am I not prioritizing that? But some people don't, and they often it's because they think things take so long. But as you demonstrated, as you've said, that's not the case. So that's really good. So what have been your biggest sort of issues you've had to overcome during lockdown then, Laurence?
I think when you aren't together as a team and you're having your meetings, it's obviously harder. You're doing things over email perhaps more, or maybe in other formats like we have a work WhatsApp group, and then we've got phone calls as well. So you've got all these different kind of threads. Whereas normally, if you get together, 2 or 3 times a week, it's much easier to fill in any gaps. But again, I've been trying to see the positives of that, to make our own as sort of a pathway to making our own processes just more efficient in house. And I think we've embraced it so far because we have to. And this is we're now into the next lockdown. Who knows, when we speak again, we could be in another one. So it's a worthy endeavour and one that we've embraced.
Good. Yeah, who knows what's around the corner, right? So so I suppose, what changes would you say that you've made during lockdown that maybe if we fast forward 6 months, a year, we're not in lockdown, what changes have you already made that you're probably going to keep doing, Laurence?
Well, I think one of the key options is offering our clients a chance to delegate some parts of their R&D thing, because now we've got the pressure there for the business owners, and that's going to stay there. It's going to be there, even if coronavirus went away in the next couple of weeks, because there's a lot of things to be rectifying from the last few months. So I think that's a key area. It's about keeping the business owners, the people who run these companies, informed of the R&D process, but just not necessarily consuming all of their time, along that natural time frame about completing a claim. And I think giving that choice is just, a simple step, and one that we should keep doing, and certainly a positive from this experience.
Good stuff. So just out of interest as well, what have you learned about yourself during the last few months, and Laurence?
Well, I think one of the things I've learned in the last few months is that you've got to have patience, and you've got to embrace change and see some of the new challenges that we have as things that are worthy to persist on and overcome, and also to expect the unexpected and not be surprised. So probably a bit of a rambling one, but
yeah, no, you're right. So flexibility, I think, is key, because like we said, we don't actually know what's going to happen over the coming months ahead. So we need to be agile. We need to be able to respond to any environment we're put in by the government or by whoever. So it is a really challenging time. But yeah, so just on a personal side, what was the first thing you did after you were released into the world after the first lockdown then, Laurence?
Oh, after first lockdown, I did go to the pub, which is quite unusual for me. Really, I'm not a big drinker, so yeah, that was about as wild as it got. I'd like to have a more crazy story for you, but you would know I was lying. I'd be piecing it together. So no, it was a nice trip to the pub. That was about it, with my track and trace app, of course.
Of course.
So yeah.
I suppose, yeah, the pubs and restaurants are hopefully for them going to be full, packed to bursting at the start of December, assuming we don't go into tier 3 lockdown, at least anyway. So I've got my fingers crossed for them. So just thinking about who your ideal customer is. I think there's a bit of misapprehension and a misunderstanding maybe about the types of people that would approach you to help with an R&D tax credit. And a lot of people think, oh, I'm not in manufacturing, so research and development isn't really my thing, so I don't think that it's worth speaking to someone like yourself, Laurence. So could you give me an example of some of the types of companies you've dealt with that maybe aren't the obvious ones that we would think of?
Yeah, I think there's one of the areas that's always missed in R&D, so regardless of the industry, is that if you have a project that has been really unsuccessful, just hasn't worked, you've had a big idea, you've gone for it, hasn't come off, these can also qualify for R&D. the argument is that, there's technological uncertainties that have remained unsolved, and so these can be claimed. So the problem is that perhaps the messaging of R&D in the industry is that, it has to be a success to claim. But actually, if you had, say, BlackBerry as a client, that company that used to make phones, that would be an example of a very good R&D client, because they've tried certain things like BlackBerry World, and it wouldn't integrate with anything, it didn't work, and it still didn't work. And so that picture is an interesting one. And so I think to that end, it's about looking at businesses that have tried certain things, gone down certain avenues that haven't worked, and looking at those avenues and potentially getting back, 25 pence on the pound on those as a rebate or a future tax saving.
Good. So in thinking about sort of SMEs locally or indeed nationally, what types of SMEs have you actually helped reclaim money from the government?
Well, pretty much every industry you can think of, I would say. Your healthcare is big, software, pharmacies, construction companies, plumbers, electricians. The list is endless. Architects, interior architects, that is a separate form, apparently. And anything from the science side as well, of your engineers. So what it boils down to, and I think my partner Tom, a business partner Tom, always puts this probably nicely, is that you're really looking for people who encounter technological uncertainties in their work, or those head-scratching moments. And so to that end, it is not limited to any industry, although the charitable industry is now excluded from claiming R&D. So it's open.
And how far can you go back, just out of interest? So if I developed a new piece of software that was eligible, say a while back now, how far could I go back?
So you could go back 2 financial years, which is obviously a bonus because that money's already been spent. And then depending upon if you were to keep innovating on that same project, or maybe a separate project off the back of it, then you could look to reclaim those costs in the next financial year and the one thereafter. And that's also, a really important thing about what we try to do for our clients is, yes, we do the retrospective claim, but then also we're talking to them in the next financial year, trying to help them box a bit clever on the R&D, what projects that they're working on at the moment will qualify, and potentially which ones they should prioritize, because obviously that will give them a benefit at the end of the year, be it a tax saving or as a cash refund.
Superb. That's been really useful. Thanks so much. So just out of interest then, if anyone wants to get in contact with you following watching this short video, Laurence, how best can they reach you? Right.
Okay. Well, my email is laurence@thisrd.com, and it's Laurence with a U. So maybe you could put it up, Phil. I don't know.
I will. What I do is I'll drop it in the comments below anyway, so okay. That's fine.
That'd be great. So yeah, check the comments box. The other is we've got 3 options now on our website to contact us. You can book through Calendly, so you can see when I'm available and check with that. You can call us through the website, and you can also email us as well, and hopefully be able to put a little bit of extra information about how we could help with that inquiry when it comes in. So all avenues are open, apart from post, fax, and carrier pigeon. Although if someone wants to send one, it's absolutely fine.
Right, I'm gonna use semaphore to communicate with you from now, because you didn't say that one was a problem, did you?
No. So yeah, send them in.
Fantastic. Laurence, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much. And yeah, anyone wants to contact Laurence to find out more about how they can claim money back from R&D tax credits, please get in touch. Comments are below. Thanks very much, Laurence.
Thanks, Phil. Pleasure.
Take care. Bye.